if one thing I know how to do well is to create a business plan. That is like, that comes naturally to us, right? People and myself even, people relying on ChatGPT for health advice. I know how wrong it can be.
How did you manage the stress and anxiety of putting together that application process, applying for O1, building your startup? Like, how did you manage some of that?
What you can do is, however, just trust the process. But because I realized in this process, every journey is so unique that no one, even if they want to, they cannot help you.
What's the one concrete step that you took to bridge the gap between your marketing expertise and the technical field to land a role at Antler?
I petitioned for criteria, which I probably something I did 7 or 8 years ago, right? So the criteria I went for was, one was critical role. The second criteria was high salary. Then the third one was membership.
Next, like, how do you feel now that you have your O1 visa and you can focus on your startup? Talk to us a little bit more about what's next for Saloni and her startup. Hi everyone, I am Priya from It's Okay Yaar and welcome back to our channel. Today we have with us Saloni and we are going to be covering her amazing journey from F2 to O1 visa. Welcome Saloni, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good, Priya. How are you?
Good. And I'm hoping for all the listeners or anyone who's watching, you will end up leaving with super actionable tips on how Saloni navigated her journey, what did she do to build her O1 profile, and how she finally got it approved. But if you're new today, It's Okay Yaar is a content platform for South Asian immigrants, and we aim to educate, entertain, and empower them. Saloni, welcome. You've had an amazing journey from marketing leadership in India to an AI founder in Atlanta. Briefly, what sparked your pivot to AI health tech after relocating to the US?
Okay, so Priya, I was working in marketing in India about for 9 years, almost a decade, right? And I helped a lot of startups build a lot of products and launch them in the market. So this is something which I did for a living, and I landed in Atlanta when I took a break from my 9 year long journey. And when I landed here, I was like really burnt out, really curious. So the whole startup ecosystem at Georgia Tech, which is where my husband was kind of pursuing his master's in computer science from, that whole ecosystem kind of like pulled me in, because there were so many like casual events which had conversations around AI and how it can solve so many problems and people willing to help, and just the whole vibe of it was very encouraging. And then my husband just happened to take a lecture which is health informatics, and that is something which we used to discuss a lot because we both come from a family of doctors. And I personally had a pain point in India just the year before that, where I had gotten a knee surgery done, and I had my own struggles of, just managing the documentation around it, and then moving to a new country, and then finding a way, how do I make that old documentation work in a new country. So there was a lot of pain points, and then some context coming in from the doctors in the family, and then a new way to learn new things. So I naturally started drawing parallels, with the US and between the US and Indian healthcare systems. So that's how I kind of got into it, and I was like, I built my passion around it.
Amazing. And I'm just curious, where in India are you from? What
So,
made you move to the US? Talk to us
so
a
I
little
am
bit.
from Delhi,
Okay.
and my husband is from Kolkata, and we were working in Bangalore when we met, and I mean, we were living a very happy life. We were both at the top of our careers. But then my husband, his name is Vinayak. So he had dropped out from his postgrad before, like 4 5 years before we met. So after we got married, we just decided that, he should finish his studies and he should get a master's degree. So this time, just it was not Europe. We just decided to do it at Georgia Tech. So I think we were just like innocent. I don't know what. We just thought that during the time he's studying, we'd be in a long distance marriage. I could be in Bangalore working and he could be here studying. So for the first semester while he was studying, that was our situation, and roughly for 6 months. And then, then I decided that I'm just going to quit my job and just join him there, because I wanted to take a break from my career as well. And then, newly married, so just wanted to spend time together.
That's amazing. And when did you land in the US?
January 2024.
Oh, January
Like
2024.
I moved on F2 visa to US on January 2024. Before that, I used to just
This.
pay visits on B1 visa.
Oh, that's fantastic that you came here on January 2024 and you were able to build your profile. But just talking to you, it seems like you've been doing a lot of work already. You kind of had the background, a lot of interests, and then similar things kind of started clicking. So I'm excited to deep dive into that and like a little bit more on the F2 visa that you came. And it's like many immigrants make these career shifts on restrictive visa categories and things like that. What's the one concrete step that you took to bridge the gap between your marketing expertise and the technical field to land a role at Antler?
So, Priya, like I'm an MBA graduate. If one thing I know how to do well is to create a business plan. That is like that comes naturally to us, right? So, first 6 months on my F2 visa. So F2 visa, just for the record, you are not allowed to work on an F2 visa, right? It's not like the H4. So first 6 months, I wanted to take a break and like, but I just couldn't, because that mindset it just never leaves you. So I spent a lot of time in researching about the problem I mentioned in health tech, right? I read a lot of research papers. I was speaking with a lot of people trying to understand why it doesn't work and if people have tried to solve for it, how have they tried to solve for it, right? So the 6 months I spent in researching and kind of going through the white papers, I was sitting on this plethora of knowledge, and then I just had to like put the two and two together and create a business plan out of it. So I quickly, whipped up a pitch deck, and I just thought that I should maybe start speaking with incubators. So I applied to like 3, 4 incubators, global incubators, not just in US, in India, in Europe, multiple, and fortunately with that pitch deck and with all the research I'd put into it along with my corporate pedigree which I was coming from, both of them just got me a spot at Antler, which was very competitive, but I got in, and then I was kind of able to bridge that, make that shift, basically enable myself to be a founder at Antler for full time.
No, that's fantastic. And you're doing all this research. You're probably talking to your husband about a few things that he's studying. Like you have this background. Like, did you have an aha moment at some point where you were like, I'm just going to do this full time and explore and build this pitch deck and go for an O1? Like, what was
Yeah,
that turning
actually,
point?
the aha moment, honestly, Priya, was observing people and myself even, people relying on ChatGPT for health advice, right? Because, I have doctors in my family. I know how wrong it can be, right? I have relied on ChatGPT where I was struggling with a symptom or I just got some blood work done and there are reports and I would just upload it to ChatGPT to see what is it saying. And then I would just follow it. But then I would call my mother-in-law at 3 a.m. in the night and ask and no, 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 don't do that. Don't take this medicine or whatever, right? So I think that was my aha moment that this is a problem which needs to be solved because ChatGPT doesn't have context, doesn't have longitudinal data on you. It doesn't integrate with your any kind of your Apple Watch or wearables like your ring or anything, right? It doesn't know the behavioral data, how much you eat or what's been your history or what kind of physical workouts or activity you get, right? So that information which you're getting from ChatGPT is something you should not rely on, and that was my aha moment that people don't need more hacks, they just need better tools. So that's when I decided that this is it, this is what I want to work on.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about your startup. Like, for anyone who's watching and still a little bit confused on what you're building with Antler or at Antler, like, talk to us exactly about your profile, what you do, and what you're looking to build.
Right. So at Antler, I built a prototype. It was a no-code prototype, but we built a health companion which allows the patient for the first time to have access to all the different data points they can have. So it will fetch every data point which is lying in your phone, let's say in your emails, in your drives, in your WhatsApps, right? The different PDFs and documents which we have. So it fetches data from there. Then it integrates with all your wearables. It tracks your cycles, it tracks your steps in the day, it tracks your calories, it tracks your um, anything, any kind of physical workout or yoga you did, right? It gets data from there. Then it also asks a lot of information when you're onboarding as a user about your previous diseases or like physical like history in your family if you've had any issues, right? So what it does is it takes everything in account and then built a personalized engine for you, which you can then use to understand more about your health. Now, if you ask that engine any questions about your own health, now that information is way more accurate than a normal, you would ask just a normal LLM like a Gemini or ChatGPT.
So this is like an AI assistant for me personally.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, no, this is fascinating because I do work in the space of healthcare with many clients who are trying to do different things. And I was just curious because a lot of my use cases are more at the enterprise level, but I see
Yeah.
a fantastic use case for this. But again, coming back to the point, let's deep dive into the O1A visa.
Yes.
You mentioned qualifying under multiple criteria. Can you share which specific criteria you focused on and give us an example of the kind of documentation that was crucial to provide that?
Got it. So, as you know, there are about 8 criterias which are listed by USCIS, and I petitioned for 6 of them. So, 3 were strong and 3 were weak. And again, I just feel like if I have to summarize it, I feel like I've been preparing for O1 for my whole life because most of my criteria went way back. Like I petitioned for criteria which I probably something I did 7 or 8 years ago, right? So the criteria I went for was one was critical role, which is a role of the marketing head I held at a startup in Africa. So that was my critical role. There, I was the first marketing hire, and I led a team of 6 to 8 people. I ran projects on my own. At that point in time, we were responsible for certain North Star metrics for the startup. So I was the one who was owning it. So that was my first criteria. The second criteria was high salary. Like I said, I'd had a journey of 8 to 9 years in marketing. So the last position which I held before taking a break was the director of marketing, which was a fairly highly compensated role compared to my peers. So the comparison is not with who is the other director of marketing and what salary they are drawing. The comparison is with the number of years of experience you have. So let's say I had 8 years of experience. So other people who have 8 years of experience in marketing, how much salary they are drawing, right? So if I'm drawing more, then I get to petition for the high salary parameter. Then the third one was membership. Again, unknowingly, but Antler is a very well reputed global accelerator, right? So this sort of like came as a surprise to me, but Antler kind of counted under a very exclusive membership to have because the acceptance rate of Antler is below 1%.
Yeah.
So you really have to, coming to your documentation question, right? Maybe I could answer for this parameter. Like, how do you prove that Antler is that exclusive? So, what I requested Antler was to share more about their selection criteria. How do they select founders? What kind of founders do they get? And then, what kind of characteristics do they look for in founders? So, they were very kind and they were able to share like an entire PPT with me about their process, the kind of applications they get. So for my cohort, which I was a part of, they received about 11,000 applications and they chose 86 people out of that. So, and they showed me what kind of people they got, what kind of ideas they got, and what kind of people then they chose. So that entire document helped me kind of prove to the authorities that this is an exclusive membership to be a part of. Although they do kind of already know, but then again, the more documentation you can give, the easier it is to sort of prove. Like, for example, in cases of Y Combinator or Techstars, it's already out there, but you still want to, just cover all your bases by giving all the documentation you can.
Yeah, no, first, congrats. I think it's very prestigious to crack something like that, and you're building something super meaningful as well. I think what you said here are like two very important things, like being able to benchmark. I think you did a great job benchmarking your salary and what that looks like. And then, same like you got through Antler, but providing the perspective that it was that many applications, like 86 out of 11,000. I think that kind of just gives perspective on how exclusive or how selective they are in terms of picking someone. So, no, that's super, super helpful. What is the single biggest piece of advice you would give someone who's on a restrictive visa like an H4 or an F2 and are aspiring to get their O1? The reason I ask is many people we speak to are like, I don't think I'll be even eligible for O1, and they probably have like 10, 12 years of experience working globally or working in India. So, what is your biggest piece of advice?
I think one piece of advice, Priya, which I definitely want to give, and I hope like someone gave me when I started, was on F2, you're not allowed to work. But what is the definition of work? Right? That is not clear. Like if you're working on something at your home or maybe creating some content on LinkedIn or YouTube, is that work? No. Is that something you're doing in your personal capacity? Yes. But can you be paid for it? Also, yes. So it is work, right? So there's a lot of gray area around, especially F2 visa. I'm not sure exactly how it works on H4, but on F2, it is like that. So
Yeah,
you
I
don't
mean,
know.
just sorry to interrupt, but I think just to add color to anyone, like if you are on an H4, F2 visa category and work is a gray area, you cannot monetize. Like you shouldn't be monetizing no matter what you are doing. You cannot be paid for anything. So I think just want to be very clear to anyone who is watching this. But please go ahead.
Exactly. And you cannot be paid for anything, and also you cannot do any work which is usually paid for.
Yeah.
This is something I did not know, right? So I feel like the first 6 months or the 1 year I spent on F2, I think maybe every day I used to like Google it up 5 times or just call my lawyer and ask, is this work? Is this
Yeah.
not? But then after a point of time, I just dropped everything and I was like, you know what? I just don't want to spend my energies here. So I would say follow the letter of the law and make sure you are not operating in the gray area at all. Because what happens is if you keep it all white and keep it all transparent in your petition, it'll help you to avoid RFEs. You don't want RFEs, right? So I think that is something which I'll say for sure. Like if you are preparing for O1, again, one more tip I could share perhaps is that when I was on F2, what I did was I used my time to build passion for something, to build conviction for something, and acquire skills. And what I did was I used those skills to get opportunities back home. So when I did Antler was in Bangalore, India. It was not here, right? So everything I was doing here, I was spending my time here, like I said, drowning in research papers and everything. I used those skills and whatever I had acquired, the knowledge, the wisdom, the whatever, I used that to get opportunities in India. And you can go to India and get paid for it. That's fine, and then you can finish it, wrap it up, and then come back here. You cannot continue it over here, right? So this is something, it sort of worked for me. I used my time here to get opportunities there, went there, did those, built my creds, and then came back. So this helped me and maybe could help others.
Talk to us a little bit about the timeline of your O1 visa. Like, when did you start preparing for it? When did you actually apply for it? And when did you get it approved?
Yeah. So, like you asked me before, Priya, right? When did you start? When did you decide that you want to build your startup? So, this was around July 2024. This is when I decided that I want to do it full time. That's when I started applying for incubators, and then I got a spot at Antler in August. That's when I joined the incubator. I went to India. I did the Antler cohort, the residency for 2 months, built the prototype, did everything, and then came back. And that's when my challenges sort of started because I realized that I don't want to limit this product to just India. I want to build on a global scale. There is no reason for me to just limit it to one market, right? And that's when I started kind of looking into the options of, what are my options? What's a valid work visa that I can get? That's when I ran into Owen. So, like I said, when I went
Hmm.
for Antler, I did not know that Antler would count as a membership.
Yeah, you were probably upskilling yourself and just trying
Yeah,
to build knowledge and get there. And then once things were ready and you were passionate about, like, no, I need to take this out at a global
yes,
scale, why restrict? I think that's when it hit. Okay.
absolutely. So that's when I ran into the criteria for O1 and what's there. So, like, fortunately, I was eligible for it, but my lawyers told me that really need a lot of documentation. Plus, my biggest challenge was some of the criteria was so, like, they were so old, and like in 20, I don't know, 2016 or 2017, you were not recording everything, right? You were not documenting everything. So that was my challenge, that how do I document something I did 8 years ago, because I don't have any physical copy of it or any, like, even soft copy of it. So I think, going back to your question, uh, sorry, what was your question? I
No,
lost.
no, I think mine was just like, when did you figure out that you want to go full time and what the timeline looks like
Yeah, so
for this?
July, August, I got into the incubator. I came back, and in October, I decided that I want to go for my O1 visa, and that's when I registered my company in US as a sole owner, and I started my O1 journey.
Okay. So you apply for O1, and at that time, have you made the application in October or
No,
how?
no, 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 no. In October, I registered my company. I started my own C Corp here, and I started preparing, like, documenting for O1. And I had hired a law firm to work with me. So I think we took about 4 to 5 months working on the
Okay.
petition. It was a very long, like, 650 pages petition, and we petitioned in the month of February 2025, and I got it in March 2025.
Okay, fantastic. No, thanks for sharing. And would you be comfortable sharing the name of the law firm that you work with?
Yeah, so I worked with Legal Pad daily
Okay.
for my visa. But again, I think I could have worked with other people as well. But what I want to share is that a good maybe advice here is take consultations from different firms, because everyone is specialized in a certain kind of visa. There are law firms who are specialized for startup founders or who are specialized for H1s. So just take consultations. Everyone
Yeah.
gives a free consultations, free webinars these days. Take consultations from everyone and then decide which one is a better fit for your specific case.
No, absolutely. And that's fantastic advice. And anyone who's watching, the idea of It's Okay are in conversations like these is to make it easier for you to understand what the path looks like. We have a few law firms that we partner with that we'll put in the description box if you want to check that out. Of course, Saloni has shared hers. But again, I think what Saloni said, the right thing is like, just have those introductory calls. Again, we don't get paid for any of the firms that we've partnered with. It's because either one of you have recommended it or we've had a great experience talking to the founder. So check it out and hopefully that helps you in the journey. But Saloni, coming back to you, you mentioned that I want to go back and talk about the recommendation letters a little bit and get a little bit more tactical. I think you did a fantastic job when you explained the benchmarking or how you spoke to Antler in describing the case. But you also went back really into the history and talked about like all the experience you'd gathered in those like 7 years. What is the tip that you would give someone who's building these recommendation letters? Like, who do you reach out to? Like, give us like something so actionable, because I think a lot of people are just like, I don't even know where to get this information.
Yeah. So, in my case, Priya, what I did was, like, I don't believe in blanket networking. It's never worked for me. What's worked for me is building long-term relationships with people over time, right? So I had two recommendation letters in my petition, and both of them came from people who I had worked with, like 6 7 years ago, doesn't matter, but I have worked with them, bless you. And so one of them was from the CEO of the startup I was working with, where I held the critical role, and I'd worked with her really closely for 2 years. She had seen me, she had seen that, I can work in a certain way and I have the potential. So she was really happy to write me a recommendation. Right, we did not speak for 5 years. So initially it was a bit awkward for me to reach out and ask for help, but she was really kind to write me a recommendation letter, because we ended the relationship, not the relationship, the association, on a good note. And the second recommendation letter came from my manager from one of the jobs I had. Again, I had worked with her for 2 years. She had seen me working. I discussed with her. I was in touch with. I was in constant touch with. She's here in California, and before even reaching out for an LOR, I discussed my idea with her that, hey, do you think that this is a good idea, and can I probably speak with some potential users and everything. So she kind of she was looped in. So she wrote me the expert what's it called, the expert recommendation, and that worked out for me. So I would say the recommendation letters, if it comes from people who worked with you, because they can recommend you, right? That's the best case scenario. If not, then perhaps reach out to the professors. That was my backup option. That if somehow that doesn't work, I'll reach out to professors, try and make a case for myself that this is what I've been working on, show my creds, show my research, take my body of work to them, and then ask them to write me a recommendation. So that was my backup. But in my case, it worked out that both the people who wrote me recommendations were someone I had worked with.
No, that's fantastic. And talk to us a little bit more about like how much money should one be putting aside or thinking about if they're pursuing an O1 journey? Like approximately what does it cost? Because it's
Yeah.
an expensive affair.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you really do not need any money apart from the attorney fees. So for me, that was around $8,000 to $10,000, and the only challenge is that around this whole process, right, there are a lot of I feel like a lot of these uh, like establishments which are offering advice or offering to build your creds services like that, or like paid communities, or like there's a lot of things around that. So if you want to stay in budget, just don't focus on any of those things, because it's not going to work out anyway. It didn't work out for me. So just stick to the law firm, do a great job at researching about the law firm you're going to work with, and just stick to them, and that's really it. So for me, it just took me about $8,000 to $10,000. I don't remember the exact amount. About roughly $10,000, because I'm counting the registering my company part and like taxes and everything. So roughly around $10,000. But yeah, if you stay away from rest of the fills. But if you're not on a budget, then who am I to tell you? Just go ahead and
Yeah.
spend
No.
it.
Thanks for the transparency and honesty there. I want to also touch a little bit more in the last few questions. You built a 650-page document that you put together. How did you manage the stress and anxiety of putting together that application process, applying for O1, building your startup? Like, how did you manage some of that?
I wish I had a different answer, but I did not manage it well. I mean, I just lived through it, Priya. Honestly, there's nothing you can do about it. Like I said, right? That I wish like there was someone could hold my hand, or like, but because I realized in this process, every journey is so unique that no one, even if they want to, they cannot help you. So you just have to live through it. You will be anxious. The stress will be real. What you can do is, however, just just trust the process. Like
Yeah.
it'll happen, it'll work. Just try and solve one problem after another, and just live through the anxiety. I don't know. Don't have a
No,
solution
no,
there.
I think it's great. And I think I'm glad that you're being super honest about it because I think what you've been through and how you've built, I'm pretty sure there is no easy way to say that this is how I could balance it. But for anyone who's listening, yes, it's probably a stressful process. But Saloni, what are you most excited about next? Like, how do you feel now that you have your O1 visa and you can focus on your startup? Talk to us a little bit more about what's next for Saloni and her startup.
I feel liberated, honestly, because coming from F2, right, now I can hire, I can fundraise, I can launch, I can like work with people I want to work with. So for me, it's very liberating. And like I said, because I was on F2, so I couldn't even launch, couldn't even if I was not making money, I could not start my own business, right?
Correct.
So I think for me, it's really exciting because I've been building up for this moment for like so long. So I have a lot of things in pipeline. The prototype which I mentioned, the health companion, right? I'm going to be launching it in next few weeks. Just the beta for now, but yeah. And so lots of exciting things. But now I can actually launch things in like like pivot and like get feedback and do real work. But yeah, that's what I'm really looking forward to.
No, I'm so excited for you, and I can't wait to try your product once it's live. I'm happy to test whatever. Like, it's super exciting and such a great space that you are tackling. Before I let you go, what is the one piece of advice you have for anyone who's watching this and around that I will probably not qualify for O1 or is super overwhelmed to even begin this process? Like, give us any of your actionable tips.
I think the truth is that if you worked consistently in your field, if you've done meaningful work consistently in your field, you probably qualify for O1, right? So I would say don't try to game the process. Don't try to think about too much about it. Just start, right? Like you inside somewhere you know that if you have those creds or not, right? Because like I said, my criteria they went 7 years ago. So because I was confident that in my field I've done good enough work. So if you have that, just go for it, get the evaluation. Of course you have to move things around, maybe build a narrative and like put the story together, but trust the process. But at least don't do that thinking part that should I do it or will I even qualify for it. You probably are a qualified candidate if you work consistently in your field for good enough time.
No, I love it because it helps bring the whole discussion together in 2 points, right? Like, only you can be honest to yourself with what kind of work you've done, whether you were just like whether it was truly meaningful or not, or whether it was differentiated. And number two is just get started. Unless you get started, you'll never know what the gaps are if you truly qualify. So I think those were fantastic pieces of advice. Anything else that you want to share that I didn't ask?
um no, actually, you asked everything.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Saloni. And for anyone who's listening, if things aren't going your way, remember it's okay, Yaar, because they will eventually turn around. And thank you so much, Saloni, for joining. Please leave below any questions, comments that you have. If you've built your own O1 profile and been successful, leave that. I think it'll really help the community. Thank you so much for joining. And Saloni, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone.